कल रुपए के बारे में काफी खबरें सुन रहे होंगे और पढ़ भी रहे होंगे। ऐसा इसलिए भी हो रहा है क्योंकि इतिहास में पहली बार अमेरिकी डॉलर के मुकाबले भारतीय रुपए 80 के पार चला गया है।
Today, the rupee suffered its worst single-day drop in close to 2 months.
Indian currency, the rupee, has been making headlines every day for the last few weeks.
Trump's policies could impact the rupee as well. The Indian currency could depreciate more against the dollar. By how much? The SBI believes by 8 to 10%.
कि डोनाल्ड ट्रंप की जीत के बाद इसका डायरेक्ट असर होता है भारतीय रुपया पर, तो इसीलिए हम ये वीकनेस देख रहे हैं।
Hello and welcome to All Indians Matter. I am Ashraf Engineer. It seems as if there is no floor to the depths the rupee can plumb these days. At regular intervals, it has hit a new low, raising concerns about its impact on the Indian economy and the daily lives of citizens. It has become one of the central economic concerns of our times. Not everyone understands how profoundly a weakening rupee impacts our lives. It sends ripples across various sectors, affecting imports, exports, as well as investor sentiment. Most importantly, it has a massive impact on the cost of living in India. Listen on to understand how.
All Indians Matter.
First of all, currency weakness is an indicator of a cooling economy. The signs have all been there and we have been discussing them. Rural distress, high unemployment, soaring inflation, declining exports, and slowing foreign direct investment. In this financial year till July, exports were 6% lower than in the same period the previous year. FY24 saw foreign direct investment decline by 3.5% and foreign portfolio investors or FPIs withdrawing from India thanks to an overpriced equity market. In August, FPIs pulled out more than $2.5 billion from Indian equities. What's more, there's a persistent danger of a surge in oil prices due to geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, which will hurt the rupee further. In FY24, India's oil import bill was managed by heavily discounted Russian crude, but in FY25, these discounts have been reducing. Indeed, geopolitical tensions and related concerns have impacted the rupee. The uncertainty around global events means there is a flight from the currencies of emerging markets and even some developed ones to the US dollar. As a result, these currencies depreciate while the dollar appreciates. Among these factors, other than the ones I've already mentioned, is the victory of Donald Trump in the US presidential election. So what does a weak rupee mean for you? At a broad level, it means a higher cost of living. India relies heavily on imports, especially of crude oil, which accounts for a large part of our fuel consumption. So India will end up paying more for the same amount of oil. In other words, it requires more rupees to buy the same amount of dollars it needs for the crude. Higher fuel costs are passed on to consumers and businesses. Costlier fuel raises the prices of essentials like vegetables because their transportation costs are now higher. This is what is known as import-induced inflation. Rising inflation means your home budget gets tighter because you have to pay more to buy the same products, from groceries to transport, leaving you with less to spend on discretionary items or invest as savings. Many households are unable to make ends meet anymore. Even electronics such as phones and laptops will become costlier since most of their components are imported. Costlier crude also means air travel getting more expensive, as well as plastics and fertilizers. The latter will impact an already embattled agriculture sector. Those businesses that have foreign currency debt face higher repayment costs, and those reliant on imports will have their profit margins squeezed. Sectors that rely on metals and electronics will feel the pinch because their production relies heavily on imported commodities. Again, these commodities will cost more. If you plan to study abroad or have a child whose education abroad you are financing, the rupee's fall means your budget will have to expand to meet the expenses. Sectors like automobiles are also highly dependent on imports of raw material. A weak rupee increases the price of the finished product, which you pay for, of course. It might mean that you will need to put off buying that car, or two-wheeler and automobile companies will face shrinking sales. Even if you buy the car, the higher cost of fuel will increase the cost of using it. There are, of course, parts of the economy that benefit from a falling rupee. Sectors like IT, metal and pharmaceuticals, which mainly export their offerings, would benefit because they would get more rupees for the dollars they charge. Tourism too gets a boost as it gets cheaper for foreign travelers to visit India. It also gets us more foreign exchange and generates jobs. However, if you are the one planning to travel abroad, it's bad news because you will need more rupees for what you spend in foreign currency. Through the wider macroeconomic lens, a depreciating rupee should improve the trade balance. The trade balance is the difference between the cost of imports and exports. Now, India's imports have always been higher than its exports. So when the rupee depreciates and we get more for the dollars we earn for our exports, the trade balance improves. While this is a theoretical explanation, we find that in the real world, a currency depreciation doesn't do much for the trade balance. Also, let's be clear. Currency depreciation by itself does not make exports more competitive. There are other critical factors such as demand, trade policies, and the cost of production. So whose job is it to keep the currency stable? While it's not solely the Reserve Bank of India's responsibility, it plays a major role in managing the rupee's volatility. It intervenes by either buying or selling foreign currency from its reserves. Such interventions stabilize the rupee, and a stable rupee makes foreign investors more confident of investing in India. Of course, the RBI has its own limitations. India's forex reserves are healthy, but that doesn't mean it can keep using them to stabilize the rupee. As I mentioned, a weak currency leads to inflation, so the RBI would be cautious also in lowering interest rates. This means credit does not become cheaper for businesses or you if you're looking to buy a home or a car on loan. This in turn can cool growth and of course impact employment generation. So as you've seen, a stable currency is more than numbers on a chart. It is reflective of and also impacts the economy as a whole. If India has to achieve a healthy economy, it absolutely has to manage the rupee's volatility.